The criminal personality, it was one of my first loves because when I began working in institutions, I noticed that typical types of treatment were not, the people were not responding to it. So, I mean, that was one of the first thoughts that it isn't my job as a mental health worker to bring my preconceived notions and bullshit into the situation and expect people to behave based on my theories. Actually, Carl Rogers talked about this to enter the client's world and understand from their perspective what was going on. And the beauty of this is exactly what Yakelson and Samenow did. Whereas a lot of the things that come out of the academic settings and research has what Bob Hare calls an armchair quality. It's people that read articles, maybe you never had any exposure to the population, and they're writing lofty opinions about what's really happening. This happens often in university settings in different ways. Whereas what Yakelson and Samenow did, they worked primarily in those days at St. Elizabeth's Hospital on the East Coast, and they interviewed the inmates. They had the inmates begin to write lengthy journals about what they were thinking, what was going on, and so forth, thinking that led to behavior. And what they called as one of the things is opening the channel wide, getting the inmates that were in the change process, as they called it, to kind of record the things that were actually going on in their mind. And the importance of this methodology and the importance of the criminal personality is actually, whereas so many of the things we've talked about, Jason, it can be hard for people to take something away and say, well, that's going to help me identify, understand, and so forth. But this has something to offer in that regard. And I recommend two books to our listeners about this. One is called Inside the Criminal Mind by Stanton Samenow. And Inside the Criminal Mind is an abbreviated shorthand version of these lengthy volumes that Yakelson and Samenow did. And you can go to this book and read it and say, okay, that's why this person's doing that. This is how they think about it. The other book that I offer, and it's in general for toxic kinds of people you may interact with, but it has some relevance here too, is called Walking on Eggshells. I believe it's called Taking My Life Back when someone you love has borderline personality disorder. And these are very practical books that when I worked even outpatient and worked with families that had offenders or personality disordered individuals, I'd have the families read the book and then we'd talk about that as a starting point for helping to intervene.